I was straightening the collar on my navy jacket when the manager grabbed my arm. The Metropolitan Club lobby smelled like furniture polish and old leather. He pushed something white and folded into my hands. "You're late," he said, not looking at my face. "Kitchen's through the back. We start serving in 4 minutes." It was an apron. I looked down at it. Then I looked at him. My federal courthouse ID was in my purse, right next to my phone. I opened my mouth to explain. Then I heard a voice from the coat check area. Robert Chen, my son's future father-in-law. "Listen, Patricia," he was saying, loud enough that the marble walls carried it perfectly. "If Daniel's mother shows up looking like she just finished a shift at the laundromat, keep her in the back. I don't need the cleaning crew chatting up the appellate judges." I stood there holding the apron. The manager was still waiting. I didn't correct him. I didn't pull out my ID. I just tied the apron strings and said, "Which door?" He pointed. I walked. In my courtroom, silence gets people talking. You wait long enough, and they'll tell you everything. I decided the same rule applied here. The kitchen door swung shut behind me. The air was hot, thick with steam from the industrial dishwashers. A younger woman, maybe 23, was stacking champagne flutes on a tray. Her hands were shaking slightly. "First time?" I asked. She nodded. "Big event. I don't want to mess up." "You won't," I said. "Just stay calm and keep moving." She looked at me like I'd handed her something solid to hold on to. I picked up a tray. The weight felt familiar, not from serving, but from memory. 30 years ago, I worked overnight janitorial at the county courthouse. I mopped floors in the same building where I now sentence people. I read case law propped against a mop bucket. Robert Chen looked at a server and saw failure. I looked at a server and saw the beginning. I pushed back through the doors into the ballroom. The lights were low, gold-toned. The air smelled like expensive cologne and confidence. A string quartet played something smooth in the corner. I scanned the room. My son, Daniel, was standing near the champagne tower in his tuxedo. When he saw me, his eyes went wide. He took a step forward. I shook my head, just once. Small. He stopped. He knew that look. He'd grown up with it. I moved along the wall, tray balanced. No one looked at my face. They looked at the drinks. I circled the room slowly. The tray gave me permission to be anywhere. People stepped aside without seeing me. It's a strange thing. Put on the uniform, and you stop being a person. You become part of the furniture. Robert Chen was holding court near the windows. He had a scotch in one hand, gesturing with the other. 3 men in dark suits stood around him, nodding at the right moments. His daughter, Amanda, was across the room in a dress that probably cost more than my first car. Silk, something pale and expensive. She was laughing too loud, touching people's arms when she talked. I watched her snap her fingers at a busboy. He took her empty glass without a word. She didn't say thank you, didn't even glance at him. "Honestly, we're being generous here," Robert was saying. His voice carried easily. "Daniel's a smart kid, sure, but let's not pretend this isn't a step up for him. We're doing him a favor." One of the men laughed. "Marrying into the Chen family? That's like winning the lottery." "Exactly," Robert said. "His mother works some government job, right? Probably scraping by. This wedding is going to change their whole situation." I refilled a glass 2 feet from his elbow. "More scotch, sir?" I asked, my voice flat. No inflection. He waved his hand without looking. "Yeah, fine. And don't let it sit too long. I hate warm scotch." "Of course," I said. I stepped back into the flow of the room. My heart rate hadn't changed. My hands were steady. In Discovery, you don't react. You just collect. I moved toward the service hallway, set the tray down on a steel counter. The younger server, her name tag said Maya, was leaning against the wall, catching her breath. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Just a lot of people." "They're not watching you," I said. "They're watching themselves." She looked up at me, something uncertain in her face. Have you done this a long time? Different version of it, I said. But yeah, long time. I thought about Daniel. How I sold my retirement account to keep him in the magnet school district after his father left. How his semester in London cost me 3 years of deferred maintenance on my car. How I showed up to parent-teacher conferences in the same 2 suits, rotated carefully. Robert Chen showed up when the stock was already high. He thought writing a check for the venue gave him ownership. He was wrong about that. Maya pushed off the wall, picked up her tray again. Back out there, she said, like she was preparing for something hard. Chin up, I told her. You're the reason this whole thing works. She smiled a little. Then she was gone. I straightened my apron and followed. The ballroom had gotten louder. The alcohol was doing its job. People's voices were looser now, less careful. I found the Chen family near the center of the room, posing for photos. Amanda was in the middle, flanked by 4 bridesmaids who all looked the same, thin, polished, forgettable. Maya approached with a tray of small plates. Crab cakes, I think. Excuse me, Miss Chen, Maya said quietly. Appetizer? Amanda turned fast, her face twisted. God, no, she said, stepping back like Maya was holding a live snake. I told the coordinator, no shellfish near me. Are you trying to kill me, or are you just stupid? The music didn't stop, but something in the air did. Maya went pale. I'm so sorry. I didn't. Clearly you didn't, Amanda snapped. Go, before you ruin something else. Maya turned too quickly. Her tray caught the edge of a cocktail table. A champagne flute tipped. A few drops hit the floor, nowhere near Amanda's dress. But Robert Chen stepped in like a bomb had gone off. Unbelievable, he said, loud enough for half the room to hear. He laughed, sharp and ugly. This is what we get for going budget on the staffing. Ethan, you see this? This is why we pay for quality. Good help doesn't exist anymore. Daniel looked sick. He started to move forward. Amanda put her hand on his chest. Stopped him. That's when I stepped in. I didn't look at Robert. I didn't look at Amanda. I knelt down on the marble floor next to Maya. It's just water and grapes, I said quietly, pulling a cloth from my apron pocket. Wipes right up. Maya's hands were shaking. I'm going to lose this job. No, I said. You're not. I promise. I wiped the floor slowly. From down here, the angle was different. I could see Amanda standing above me, arms crossed, that expensive dress catching the light. She thought she was untouchable because she was standing and I was kneeling. She didn't understand the oldest principle of power. True authority doesn't need to announce itself. I finished wiping, stood up, folded the cloth. All clean, miss, I said. Amanda didn't respond, just turned away, already talking to someone else. I walked back toward the kitchen but stopped at the service bar. The bartender was restocking wine glasses. Behind him, through the doorway, I could see into a smaller room, the partners' lounge. The door was propped open with a doorstop. Robert Chen was in there with 4 other men, all in tuxedos, all holding drinks. They stood in a tight circle, backs to the door. I picked up a bottle of champagne from the ice bucket and moved closer. The Westfield merger is locked, Robert was saying. $38 billion. Biggest deal the firm's closed in a decade. One of the men looked worried. The DOJ's been asking questions, and it just got assigned to Judge Vance, Second Circuit. I've heard she's thorough. I stopped moving, kept my face blank. Robert laughed. Vance, please. She's a diversity appointment with a soft record. Spent half her career in family court. She cares about feelings, not financials. I set the champagne bottle down on the sideboard. My hand was perfectly steady. What about the environmental reports? Another man asked. If Vance sees the contamination levels, she'll block the whole thing. Clean Water Act violation. Robert took a sip of his scotch. She won't see them. The room went quiet. We're burying them, Robert said. Discovery dump. Box 3847, right between the cafeteria invoices and the parking logs. 2 million pages of documentation. She's a federal judge with a backlogged docket. She doesn't have the time, and frankly, she doesn't have the skill set to dig through that volume. We file, we argue, we walk out with 38 billion. I picked up the champagne bottle again. My face showed nothing. In my head, I was already drafting the order. More champagne, gentlemen? I asked from the doorway. Robert glanced over. Yeah, keep it coming. He turned back to his circle. I walked away. He thought he was burying evidence. He didn't realize he was confessing to a federal judge. I moved back into the main ballroom. The party was louder now. Someone had turned up the music. People were starting to dance. I found Maya near the dessert table, restocking napkins. You doing okay? I asked. She nodded. Yeah, thank you. For earlier. Don't mention it. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Have you ever worked anywhere else? Like, before this? I looked at her. Really looked. She had a textbook in her bag. I could see the edge of it sticking out. The cover was dark blue with gold lettering. LSAT Prep Guide. The pages were dog-eared, the margins filled with notes in blue pen. I've worked a lot of places, I said carefully. Why? I applied for this internship, she said. With the Solicitor General's office. It's competitive, like 3 spots a year. I thought I had a shot. My scores were good, but I got a rejection letter last week. They said my application was incomplete, but I checked everything 5 times. What's your name? I asked. Maya Orozco. I memorized it. Don't give up on that, I said. Sometimes things get reconsidered. She looked confused, but nodded. I walked back toward the partners' lounge. The door was still propped. Robert was still talking. And Amanda got the Solicitor General internship, he was saying, proud. That DC position, only 3 slots a year. One of the men raised his eyebrows. That's Ivy League level, top 1%. Robert grinned. Let's just say the selection committee appreciates donors. There was some girl from a state school, good test scores, I guess, but no connections, no pedigree. We couldn't waste a slot like that on someone who doesn't know how to use it. Her file got misplaced. I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't just nepotism, it was theft. I looked back at Maya, still folding napkins near the dessert table. She had no idea her future had been stolen to make room for someone who treated her like dirt. I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, found a name, Senator William Cartwright. He was the keynote speaker tonight, currently in the green room, probably reviewing his speech. I typed 2 sentences. Need you in the main hall. Now. I hit send. Then I untied my apron. The kitchen doors swung open. Senator William Cartwright walked into the ballroom. 2 security personnel flanked him, but he moved ahead of them, scanning the crowd. His face was familiar. News channels, committee hearings, Sunday morning interviews. Robert Chen's face lit up immediately. He straightened his jacket, stepped forward with his hand out. Senator, what an honor, Robert said, smile wide. Robert Chen, managing partner at... William walked past him, didn't even pause. He walked straight to the service station where I was standing, still holding the folded apron. Margaret, William said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. Judge Brennan, why are you wearing a server's uniform? The silence was complete. Robert's hand was still extended in the air. His face went from confident to confused to pale in about 3 seconds. Judge? Amanda whispered. Her champagne glass tilted in her hand. I set the apron down on the counter, smoothed the front of my navy jacket, met William's eyes. Hello, William, I said, my voice calm, clear. I was observing. Observing what? He asked. He was playing along perfectly. A case, I said. The Westfield merger. It's on my docket. Robert made a sound like he'd been punched. Judge Brennan? He started. his voice cracking slightly. We had no idea. There's been a misunderstanding. Has there? I asked. I didn't raise my voice, didn't move toward him, just stood there. We were just talking, Robert said. Privately. Attorney-client privilege. There's no privilege when you're shouting in a ballroom, Mr. Chen, I said. And certainly not when you're admitting to discovery violations in front of a federal judge and a United States senator. I turned to William. He detailed a plan to bury environmental contamination reports in box 3847 of the discovery filing. Deliberate spoliation. He referred to me as someone who lacks the skill set to find them. William's expression went cold. Is that right? Robert's face had gone from pale to gray. I didn't mean. You did mean it? I said. You meant every word. You just didn't know who was listening. Amanda grabbed her father's arm. Dad, do something. I can't. Robert looked around the room, desperate. This is a private event, a celebration. It was, I said. Now it's a deposition. I pulled my phone from my jacket pocket, opened the voice memo app, held it up. I recorded the conversation in the partners' lounge, I said. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. I'm the one party. The recording is admissible. Robert's knees seemed to buckle slightly. That's not all, I continued. I looked at Amanda. She was gripping her father's arm now, her face flushed. Miss Chen, I said, you were recently accepted to the Solicitor General's summer internship program. Is that correct? She nodded, confused. Yes, I sit on the oversight committee for that program, I said. The selection process is blind, merit-based. I reviewed this year's applicants personally. Her face changed. There was a candidate, I continued. Top LSAT score in the region. Flawless application. But her file was marked incomplete and rejected. Her name is Maya Orozco. I gestured toward Maya, still standing near the dessert table. She was frozen, staring at me. Your father just admitted in front of witnesses that he had her application misplaced to make room for you. Amanda's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That's federal corruption, William said quietly. Bribery of a government selection process. Robert was shaking now. Senator, please, this can be worked out. A donation to your... Stop talking, William said, his voice sharp. You're making it worse. I turned to Daniel. He was standing near the champagne tower, watching everything. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. Daniel, I said. He walked over, stood next to me. Mom, he said quietly, I didn't know. I know you didn't. He looked at Amanda, then back at me. I'm sorry. Don't be, I said. You didn't do anything wrong. Amanda stepped forward, her voice rising. This is insane. You can't just... You're ruining everything because of a misunderstanding. I'm not ruining anything, I said. Your father did that. You helped. I looked at Robert. The Westfield merger will be reviewed by a special panel. I'll recuse myself, but my recording and testimony will be submitted to the ethics board. The Bar Association will receive a full transcript. Please, Robert said. His voice was barely a whisper. My career... Should have thought of that before you called me incompetent to my face while committing federal crimes. I turned to Maya. She was still standing there, her face a mixture of shock and confusion. Miss Orozco, I said, I'll be reviewing your application file tomorrow morning. If everything is in order, and I believe it will be, you'll receive a corrected acceptance letter by end of week. Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded, unable to speak. I picked up my purse from the service counter, looked at Daniel. Ready to go? I asked. Yeah, he said. Let's go. We walked toward the exit. The crowd parted. No one said a word. Amanda's voice cut through the silence. Daniel, you can't just leave. He stopped, turned back. I'm sorry, Amanda, he said, but I can't marry someone who treats people like that. He slipped the engagement ring off his finger, set it on the nearest table. Then we walked out. The cab ride home was quiet. Daniel sat in the back seat, staring out the window at the city lights. I didn't try to fill the silence. Sometimes silence is the only appropriate response. When we got to my apartment, he followed me inside. I kicked off my heels, set my purse on the entry table, and walked to the kitchen. Put the kettle on. Tea? I asked. Yeah, he said. Thanks. He sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd done homework in middle school, where I'd reviewed case files while he studied for the SATs. The kettle whistled. I poured 2 cups, set one in front of him. I'm sorry, Mom, he said finally. For what? For not seeing it sooner, for putting you in that position. I sat down across from him. You didn't put me anywhere. They did that themselves. But I brought them into your life. You didn't know, I said. That's the thing about people like that. They're very good at showing you what they want you to see. He wrapped his hands around the mug. I should have noticed how she talked to the staff, at restaurants, at her parents' house. I thought she was stressed about the wedding. Stress doesn't create character, I said. It reveals it. He nodded slowly. What happens now? To them? Robert will face a bar investigation. The merger will be scrutinized. If the contamination reports are real, and I believe they are, he'll lose his license, possibly face criminal charges. And Amanda? She'll lose the internship. Beyond that, I don't know. That's not my jurisdiction. Daniel took a sip of tea. Do you think she knew about what her father did? I think she benefited from it without asking questions, I said. Sometimes that's the same thing. We sat there for a while. The apartment was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels clean. I really thought I loved her, Daniel said. Maybe you did. Maybe you loved the version she showed you. Is that enough? No, I said. It's not. He looked at me. How did you know that something was wrong? I thought about it. I didn't at first, but when people think you're invisible, they stop performing. They show you exactly who they are. The apron. The apron, I agreed. Best disguise I've ever worn. He almost smiled. Then it faded. What do I do now? You move forward, I said. You finish law school. You build something that doesn't depend on other people's approval. Like you did. Like I did. He finished his tea, stood up. I should go, let you get some rest. You can stay if you want. Your old room is still set up. No, I'm okay. I need to think. I walked him to the door. He hugged me, quick, tight. Thank you, he said. For tonight, for everything. You don't have to thank me. I know. But I am. He left. I locked the door behind him, then walked back to the kitchen, washed the mugs, dried them, put them away. Then I opened my laptop. The case file for the Westfield merger was already on my desktop. I'd started reviewing it 3 weeks ago, long before tonight. I'd noticed the missing environmental data, flagged it for follow-up, but I hadn't known where to look. Now I did. Box 3047. I sent an email to my clerk. Subject line, Discovery Review Request. In the body, please retrieve box 3847 from the Westfield merger filing. Flag all documents related to environmental testing. I need a summary by Monday morning. I hit send. Then I opened a second email. This one to the Bar Association's Ethics Committee. I attached the voice recording from tonight. Added a brief summary of what was said, where, and in front of whom. Included Senator Cartwright's contact information as a corroborating witness. I didn't editorialize, didn't add commentary, just facts. Sent. The third email was to the Solicitor General's Oversight Committee. I requested a full audit of this year's application process, specifically any applications that were marked incomplete without clear documentation of what was missing. I mentioned Maya Orozco by name. Sent. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window. The city was still awake. Lights in windows, cars on the street, people living their lives, unaware that the mechanisms of justice were turning quietly in apartments just like this one. My phone buzzed. A text from William. That was something. Call me tomorrow. We should talk. I typed back. Will do. Thank you for being there. His response came immediately. Anytime. That's what old friends are for. I set the phone down. Then I walked to my closet, opened the door. The navy suit jacket was hanging on the left. My judicial robes were on the right, and folded on the shelf above them, the white apron from tonight. I left it there. 3 months passed. The headlines came in waves. First local, then regional, then national. Westfield merger blocked. Amid environmental concerns, Chen and partners under federal investigation. Prominent attorney faces disbarment over evidence tampering. I didn't follow the coverage closely. I just did my job. The Discovery Review confirmed what Robert had admitted. Box 3847 contained 17 pages of contamination reports. Water table samples showing toxic levels 3 times the federal safety limit. The reports had been deliberately buried in a filing that was over 2 million pages long. I recused myself from the case, as promised, but I submitted my recording and a written statement to the special panel. Senator Cartwright did the same. The panel blocked the merger, unanimously. Robert Chen's law license was suspended pending a full ethics hearing. The hearing took 6 weeks. The outcome was decided in 40 minutes. Disbarred, the firm collapsed within a month. Partners scattered to other practices. The name came off the building. Amanda called Daniel twice in the first week. He didn't answer. The third time, he blocked the number. I didn't ask him about it. He told me anyway, one night over dinner at my place. She wanted me to talk to you, he said, cutting into his chicken. Ask you to make it go away. What did you say? Nothing. I didn't pick up. Good. He looked at me. Do you think she'll be okay? Eventually? I don't know, I said. That's up to her. The Solicitor General's office completed their audit 4 weeks after I submitted the request. They found 3 applications that had been marked incomplete without proper documentation. Maya's was one of them. All 3 were reviewed by an independent committee. All 3 were reinstated. Maya received her acceptance letter on a Tuesday morning. I know because she sent me a handwritten note. It arrived at my office in a plain white envelope. Dear Judge Brennan, I don't know how to thank you. I've read this letter 12 times and I still can't believe it's real. I start in 2 weeks. I'm scared and excited and I keep thinking about what you said, that sometimes things get reconsidered. You gave me more than an opportunity. You gave me back my future. I promise I won't waste it. With gratitude, Maya Orozco, I kept the note in my desk drawer. Daniel graduated law school that spring, top 15% of his class. He accepted a position with a civil rights firm in Boston. Small practice, good people. He called me the day he signed the offer letter. It doesn't pay much, he said. That's okay. And it's not prestigious. Prestige is overrated, he laughed. Yeah, I'm learning that. You're going to be good at this, I said. I hope so. I know so. There was a pause. Then he said, I saw Amanda last week, at a coffee shop near campus. I didn't say anything, just waited. She's working retail now, he said. Part of her community service agreement. She didn't see me. I didn't go over. How did she look? Tired, he said. But I don't know. Maybe more real than before. Maybe. Do you think people can change? He asked. Some people, I said, if they want to badly enough. But wanting isn't enough by itself. You have to do the work. Yeah. We talked for a few more minutes, about his move to Boston, about his new apartment, normal things, parent and child things. When we hung up, I sat at my desk for a while. The office was quiet. My clerk had gone home. The building was mostly empty. I pulled up the Westfield case file one more time, read through the final decision. The merger had been permanently blocked. The company was required to fund a 10-year environmental cleanup. Estimated cost, $400 million. Robert Chen had tried to bury 17 pages. Those 17 pages had dismantled his entire career. I closed the file. Then I opened my calendar. Tomorrow's docket was full. 2 appeals hearings, a motion to suppress, a sentencing review, normal work, the kind of work that doesn't make headlines, the kind that matters. I shut down my computer, gathered my things, walked to the elevator. The building was old, high ceilings, marble floors, the same floors I used to mop 30 years ago when I was paying my way through night school. I'd worked the graveyard shift, midnight to 6 a.m. The building was empty then, just me and the cleaning cart and the textbooks I'd balance on the windowsills. I remembered reading case law by the light of the exit signs, memorizing precedents while I emptied trash bins. Robert Chen had looked at me in that apron and seen someone beneath him. He hadn't understood that I'd already lived that life, and survived it, and built something from it. That was his mistake. I stepped into the elevator, pressed the button for the ground floor. The doors closed. 6 months later, I was in my chambers reviewing a motion when my clerk knocked. "Judge Brennan? There's someone here to see you. No appointment, but she says it's important." "Who is it?" "Maya Orozco." I looked up. "Send her in." Maya walked through the door. She looked different, confident. She was wearing a gray suit, simple but well-fitted. Her hair was pulled back. She carried a leather portfolio under one arm. "Judge Brennan," she said, "I'm sorry to drop by unannounced." "It's fine. Sit down." She sat across from me, set the portfolio on her lap. "I'm halfway through the internship," she said. "It's everything I hoped it would be. I'm learning so much." "Good. I'm glad. But that's not why I'm here." She hesitated. "There's someone else, another server from that night. His name is David. He's been working events for 3 years while putting himself through community college. He wants to go to law school, but he can't afford the LSAT prep courses, can't afford the application fees." She opened the portfolio, pulled out a folder, handed it to me. "He asked me how I did it, how I got the internship. I told him about you." She paused. "He wanted me to ask if there are programs, scholarships, anything that could help." I opened the folder. Inside was a handwritten resume, high school transcript, community college grades, a personal statement, 3 pages, single-spaced. The handwriting was careful, deliberate. I read the first paragraph. "My name is David Morales. I am 24 years old. I work 40 hours a week serving at private events so I can attend classes during the day. My goal is to become a public defender. I want to represent people who cannot afford representation. I know what it feels like to be invisible. I don't want anyone else to feel that way in a courtroom." I closed the folder, looked at Maya. "Tell David to call my office next week. I know some people who run a legal fellowship program. They cover LSAT prep, application fees, and first-year tuition for qualified candidates." Maya's face broke into a smile. "Really?" "Really. Thank you," she said. "He's going to—" "Thank you." She stood up, shook my hand. Then she left. I sat there holding David's folder. The door closed. The office was quiet again. I thought about the apron in my closet, about the nights I spent mopping floors, about the people who never saw me, and about the people who did. I opened my desk drawer, filed David's folder next to Maya's letter. Then I stood up, walked to the window. The city stretched out below. Thousands of people, thousands of stories, some of them fighting to be seen, some of them waiting for someone to notice. I couldn't help everyone, but I could help some. That was enough. I turned back to my desk. The stack of case files was still waiting. I sat down, opened the first one, got back to work. If you believe that character reveals itself when people think no one is watching, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know what city you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. And if you found something valuable in this story, hit that like button and subscribe. There are 2 more stories coming up next that I think you're going to want to hear. Thanks for listening.